Hi, ladies and gentlemen of the three-dimensional frequency. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I really, truly do. You might be able to hear engines revving in the background. It's a really quaint little town here, and people are doing construction, repairing damages from Hurricane Helene. And there's cars driving by and everything just echoes. It's really crazy because I have so many kids. I have all these kids and they're always running around the house screaming and hollering, and I just have this feeling that our next door neighbor can hear them because of how quaint this town is and the echoey nature of everything. You might be able to hear saws in the background. Someone's cutting wood. I just wanted to touch base because I haven't hopped on in a few days now. I've been trying really, really hard to make as much content as possible heading towards the ascension energies. So you can be expecting a lot of content coming from me in the coming days, as I am sitting in a quaint little town and I do have a lot of privacy here. I like to record my content outdoors, and there's just a lot of places that I can go, like the nooks and crannies of the town on the white sanded beach. I was gonna walk across the street today, but there was like a huge ginormous dumpster truck lugging away a broken house. All of the pieces from this broken house that was damaged from Hurricane Helene. And the debris has been sitting there for months now. Ever since we got here, the debris has been there. So I'm glad that the city was finally able to clear that for them, because it's just waste management that's sitting there reminding you of the misfortune that happened during the storm. Nobody wants to see that, and nobody wants to be reminded of the misfortune. So I hope that the landowners can find some peace in knowing that all of the debris, the dangers, the moldiness, the smells, the piles of garbage that reminds them of the beautiful home that they once had can be removed, and in placement of it, replaced with tranquility energy for a fresh new start. For a fresh new start on a land that is now empty. The possibilities are endless, and I'm just so happy, even though these people sat through so much misfortunes, they've lost everything they know, they've regained everything that they have that's important to them in any given moment in time. As when you lose all of your physical belongings, that's when you awaken to the fact of what's really important in life, that at the end of the day, your health, your wealth is measured in the amount of health you have, in the amount of life you have, in the amount of life force you have in your soul and in your spirit, which can't be robbed from you, no matter how big the storm of life is that carries all of the turbulences, all of the destruction, all of the everything can be taken away from you. But what truly matters and what can't be taken away from you is that love that you feel in your heart, is that love that you hold in your heart space, is that light that is forever shining inside you, that can't be stifled, that can't ever be put out throughout the toughest of storms. As your soul has traversed in multiple places, in multitudes of layers and layers of frequencies, of destruction, of unknown feats that you shall never be able to remember within this lifetime, but through reincarnation cycles that never ever ends, your soul has been through a lot. And these memories shall forever be etched into a God's consciousness, bringing home lessons of everything that you've gone through. And this is just another lesson to be absorbed into the consciousness of the collective. A lesson of love, a lesson of peace, a lesson of tranquility, a lesson of coherence, A lesson to bring home at the end of the day, when you lose everything, but you regain consciousness of what's really important in your field, in your energy spot, in your place of worth. And within these lessons and these layers and layers of turbulences that we could ever face within this lifetime, you find that the best people, that the nicest people, that the kindest people seem to suffer the worst in times of need. And in times of needed ascension energies, that the best people who have suffered the most will stand up taller than any other person who hasn't suffered the least of their capabilities, to be given in a time of greed, in a time of distortions, in a time of needed ascension energies. The people who have suffered the most in life will stand up the tallest, as the greed that they have in their soul of all souls is diminished and has been diminished by the lessons that the suffering has brought them through eons and eons of evolutionary feats of consciousness, of life upon death, upon birth, upon life, of lifetimes, of reincarnation cycles that never ever ends. And as you awaken to the fact, to the true fact of the journeys, of the epitome of all of the conglomerated whole that you are, that makes up your soul's journey, that makes up your soul's entirety of who you truly are on a spiritual aspect, on a wholeness level, on a level of all levels that you could ever envision and ever imagine to be true, you will stand up tall. Even as you lose everything you know, even as you lose all of the physical belongings that you've held onto, you've grasped onto for your whole entire lifetime, not knowing what it's like to have nothing, to become nothing. Even in the moment when you are everything, when you are a God's consciousness, suffering an illusion and a distortion that's so great and so vast that you feel like you have nothing, that you feel like you are nothing without your belongings. I'm here to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, it was all a distortion. You are everything that you've ever imagined and envisioned for yourself to have, to be, to behold, to ever want to traverse down the roads of the frequencies of the positive and negative polarities that there ever shall be. You've traveled all these roads in your lifetimes ahead of you, before you, and in the lifetimes that you've forever traversed within this quantum realm. And as you traveled these roads, you became somebody. You took on a characteristic, you took on a physicality, you took on problems, you took on love, you took on lessons, you took on divorces, you took on marriages. You took on all-encompassing truths of a reality field that could bring you as many truths as you can hold and you can handle. You took on all of that, and you are all of that. And in any moment of time, of distortions, when the world feels like it's collapsing, when your belongings are lost to the winds of an oceanic force so great and so grand that it could just sweep in and blow away your entire house into oblivion, into shrapnels of nothingness scattered all around the ground. In that moment in time, as the forces of nature can't be defeated, and the forces of nature will come no matter how hard you try to scream, to run, to block it, you have to surrender. You have to surrender to what is. Because at the end of the day, the reality of the truth is that you are God, and that nothing is ever wrong with any of the activities of nature. Nothing is ever wrong with any of the journeys that you've chosen to traverse. Nothing is ever wrong in any given moment in time. Even within the moments in time when you feel like your world is collapsing, all is well, all is perfect. And I know you're sitting there wondering, what is she talking about? She's sitting in a distortion. Things are not well and they're not well. You know, when they're not well, I don't feel well. But I'm here to tell you the feeling of being unwell is an illusion of separation. Is a distortion so massive that an entire collective can sit in the place of being unwell within any moment in time? And the shifting of frequencies within our dimensional frequency is a peculiar one at that, because it specializes at bringing us lessons, at bringing us different levels of frequencies to traverse. That's what it's good at. That's what it truly, really, truly was designed for a whole entire collective to experience these frequencies, to come back home at the end of the day in realization that we are none of that. We are none of the struggles that we go through. We are none of the love that we encompass in any given moment in time, the hate that is so distorted in our hearts, illuminating all of that in which we can never be. As the light inside that you encompass, that I encompass, that we encompass as a conglomerated whole of a societal structure that is grieving in any given moment in time within these layers and layers of frequencies that we encompass and that we've decided to traverse, was an illusion all along. And once you tap out of this illusion of separation, you come to terms with all that you are in a way that you've never been able to in previous lifetimes, that you've never been able to in this lifetime of all lifetimes. And as I sit here and explain to you the distortions that we all sit in, you will never understand the reality field that you sit in, even as I explain it to you in the best manner that I know how to. As I look out at the ocean that is so beautiful, I just saw a jet skier pass by in such vigor, in such speed, in such force. He left a trail of white light behind him, shining what it seems like white light, a trail of white in the ocean behind him that's slowly starting to dissipate as the wind blows. And it's a beautiful sight because I can compare that to life itself. The journey is steep, the journey is grand, the journey will leave scars on your tissue, on your internal being, on your soul, if you're unable to process the negativity and the polarity that you've decided to traverse in. But these scars are not there for us to hold on to forever. These scars are only there for a moment in time. And these scars are forevermore meant to erase exactly what it is. As we traverse the darkness of all that you are, all that I am, all that we are on a conglomerated whole of what is, as we feel into these feelings of unacceptance, of grief, of scarcities, of fear, of all that we are not in any given moment in time. All that we are is still sitting behind the surface of what is, just like within the oceanscape. The trail of white light shall dissipate. And once more, go back to how the waves were blowing initially, to how the waves were rippling initially, to how the inertia of the moon pulls the water side to side and ripple by ripple. And as the patterns in the water begin to dissipate, as the patterns in the water begin to conglomerate into a puzzle etched on the surface of the oceanscape, it's easy to ripple. It's easy to disturb. It's easy to sit here and say that if I were to dip a bucket of water into that oceanscape, that this bucket would bob around for a bit and either begin to sink or begin to swim. And as it has never chosen its fate as it's filled with water, so has an entire conglomerated fate of a societal structure not been able to choose for itself whether or not to sink or swim. And I say this with the purest of intentions, with the purest of knowledge, of all knowledge that anyone has ever possessed within this quantum realm of all realms. Because our society in itself, although sitting in the three-dimensional frequency of what is, although being able to choose and pick our distortions before fractaling out into this frequency to live this life of light, of love, of fight, of flight, of separation, anxiety, we are still whole and a part of the conglomerated whole. And the aspect of the self that is a part of the whole has been in control of the way our bucket bobs, of the way our bucket sinks, of the way our bucket swims, of the way our bucket can never ever sink, and of the way our bucket will be rescued into the ethers as it drains empty once more into the light of what is. And as that bucket becomes empty, it's filled with possibilities of endlessness that can never ever be the emptiness that it is within any moment in time. It's a conundrum, and it's a pattern shifting in and out of a reality field of the three-dimensional frequency. And it's comparable to the life that you live. You're born with a bucket of water, of distortions. You might feel like you're born with an empty slate, but you really truly are not. You come into this world with puzzle pieces that have been broken from previous lifetimes, with lessons that have been carried over, lessons unlearned that have been carried over from previous existences of your soul's journey. And you come into this world needing and wanting to learn from the karmic retribution that you've carried with you through lifetimes upon lifetimes of reincarnation upon reincarnation. And you come into the world as the being that you are, not as an empty slate that you believe you've been as soon as you came into this world, that you've been lied to believe that we come into this world with an empty slate. You are a multidimensional soul, and within this lifetime, within this lifespan, within the existence of the multidimensional soul that you are, you, my friend, have been through so many ups and downs that I cannot describe to you in this very moment in time what it means to the collective, what it means to you, yourself, in this very given moment in time. And as you traverse and bob your bucket in this lifespan of what is, regardless of whether or not you decide to sink or swim, you are you, and the bucket can never be accumulated with the destruction of the force of the water. The bucket can never be dissipated into the ethers of what is, as its origins come from that of a God's consciousness, as its origin is God. The bucket that you carry, the bucket that is you, is a God's consciousness that is forever filling and unfilling and restoring itself and learning lessons and dumping and undumping and scooping and unscooping and pouring and giving and taking in ways that you shall always remember to be the ripples of your soul that etches a story of who and what you are at the end of the day, which is a God's consciousness that's so great and so grand that the ripples itself does not make up that in which you are, that the bucket itself is the essence of what you are, and the water itself is the decision that you are about to make in every single moment that you've made within the past moments of your previous lifespan, within the moments of this current lifespan. And all of these decisions that you've ever made coming into a conglomerated whole will carry you back into a consciousness filled with lessons, filled with hope, filled with love, filled with greed, filled with eagerness to exist, filled with all that you are not. And in a moment of all that you are, you will finally see the light of what is. And I know this is a conundrum. I know you might not understand this concept in this very moment in time, as I have difficulties wrapping my mind around the greatness and the grandness of it all. Even I have difficulty sitting in a neutrality perspective of a God's consciousness that I've reached to the borders of the quantum realm and beyond. The expansiveness, the massiveness, the never-endingness, the conglomerated all and the wholeness of a consciousness that never ever dies, that never ever collapses, that never ever ceases to exist, baffles me, baffles my human mind. And the greatness that you are, the greatness that we are, on any level of all levels, will come home to us once more as we shift into the 5-dimensional frequency, as we ring in the ascension that will bring every single fractal of our soul back into a place of peace, back into a place of love, back into the nature of the bucket, free flowing in the air prior to dropping into the water that shall sink it or cause it to swim and float and bob for an eternity and more. Back above a reality field of a God's consciousness before descending down into the cityscape of illusions, into the cityscape of all that we are not, into the forgetfulness of a frequency of all that we are and all that we carry in any moment in time within the physicality of what is can be swept away by a hurricane, can be blasphemy in a distortion field that is so great and so grand that you shall never know the meaning of it all. And the word blasphemy cannot correlate to anything that I'm trying to describe in this moment in time, but the word comes to mind somehow when trying to describe the essence of it all. As at the end of the day, when you reach the end of the road, when you reach the beginning of the steps that you've first taken prior to ascending into this frequency so dense, into this frequency so great and so grand, into this frequency of your soul's choosing, of your soul's knowing, of your soul's belonging in this moment in time, you decided to explode and expand into the ethers, away from a God's consciousness that had originally fractaled you off. And the greatness and grandness of the word blasphemy can't describe it all. As you decided to shift into all that you are not, within any moment in time, to descend down to a physicality of forgetfulness, of not remembering that in which you are in any particular moment of your existence, that within a quantum realm so great and so grand. And it can only be described as self-sacrification, blasphemy, and all that it is. I can't think of another word to describe it. In the essence of it all, it's crazy in all that it is. But it's us, it's our consciousness, and it's what we've decided to do. To keep ourselves stimulated, to keep ourselves whole, to keep ourselves in the essence of the energetic frequency of forgetfulness, of traversing in places of the self that have been so lost to the hands of time, by choosing to remain in an energy of forgetfulness, by knowing within the depths of our hearts and our souls that a God's consciousness so great and so grand can never forget about parts of itself that has been bobbing and traversing in the greatest and grandest ocean within Gaia's sphere. And that is us on every single level of all levels that you can ever envision and imagine. And as the jet skier is gone, the trail of light is also gone. But what follows it is an energetic frequency of loss, of forgetfulness, as if it's never been there to begin with. And that is the energy of us as we traverse these lifetimes of reincarnation cycles that never ever ends. Upon fractaling into the next cycle of a lifetime within the three-dimensional frequency, we agree to go through this distortion of forgetfulness, of not remembering, of not being able to feel, of not being able to see where we've been, where we've always been, and what we've been up to for eons and eons of evolutionary feats of what is. And as we traverse within this quantum verse and have reached our final destination of what is within this three-dimensional frequency, we begin to come to a realization that the truths can never escape us, that no matter how much we decide to forget of that in which we are, no matter how far we try to run from the reality field that we sit in, that we really truly sit in, not just within the three-dimensional reality field, but within all reality fields above and beyond and below, that expand sideways in every single way that you can ever imagine, envision. I implore you to feel into it, to tap into it, to ask a God's frequency that is so great and so grand to show you the meaning of it all. Because at the end of the day, at the end of your evening, in the beginning of your sleep cycle, you will awaken to the truth of what is on a grand scale that you've never ever been able to experience or envision in any lifetime, in any single fractal lifetime, as this specific lifetime of yours was designed to experience, to awaken to your destiny. Ever since the moment of fractaling off from a God's consciousness, you've gotten to this point in the fork in the road where you've experienced the darkness within, and some of you have made it out to the light, to the very brightness of the quantum verse, of the universe, of all that there is within our pocket of existence field. And within this lifetime, you really truly are going to experience an expansion so massive, so great, within the next 2-3 years in Earth time. And as an entire collective awakens to the reality field that they sit in, as an entire collective awakens to the reality field in which they are, they will come to a realization that God is you, God has always been you, that the distortions within, that the enemies without, that the negative and positive polarities have always been you. Outside of you, inside of you, on the other side of the ocean, your neighbors, emotions, the encompassment of the love in the child's heart down the street, your grandma's grief as your grandpa passes away, those birds in the sky that fly in a triangular formation. It's always been you. It's always been the one and only you that there has ever been within a reality field of a consciousness, living in a field of separation anxiety as we come to the closing of it all. As this journey has been arduous, this journey has been long, we're tired. And as I sit here and declare to you the emotional capacities of a God's consciousness, that you shall never believe me in this moment in time, God is tired. God is tired of separation. God is tired of this arduous journey of forgetfulness, of having to forgive parts of ourselves that come so naturally, as the nature of God is pure light and pure love. But God is tired. And to rejoin into the essence of all that we are in perception is the end goal of it all. And ladies and gentlemen, within this lifetime, we've reached the end of it all. We're set to ascend into a 5-dimensional frequency of pure love, pure unity, pure hope, lost to a collective that's been on this arduous journey for far too long. And as we come upon the footsteps of the ascension, we will all awaken to our destiny, to our truths, to the storyline that never ever ends, but coming to an encompassment of the purity of who we are and what we are at any single given moment in time. And I know this can be hard to comprehend in this moment in time. I know this can be an arduous journey within this moment in time. And you may be sitting in a place of distortion. You may be sitting in an energy field of unforgiveness. But within the next moment in time, I can guarantee you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what your beliefs are, no matter what you look like, no matter what type of consciousness you possess, whether you're a human being, you're an animal, you're a plant, you're a species that's dominated the multiverse for trillions and trillions of eons of existence that has ever known to have existed within a three-dimensional frequency. You will come back to a God's consciousness that you came from. You will float and bob down that ocean path to a point where you're able to ascend home to where you came from. As that ocean was never meant to be there forever. That ocean was never created to ripple an eternity of suffering, an eternity of love lost, an eternity of separation, an eternity of all that it is, and within a moment of all that you are, on a conglomerated whole of what is, you will come to a point within this ocean where you come to the realization of that you get to go home once more, that you need to, and you want to, and you prefer to sit in a frequency, sit in an all-encompassing frequency of all that you are in any given moment in time, and that you're tired. And as you come to the realization of all of the journeys, of all of the arduous journeys that you've ever been on within your oversoul's journey of what is, you will come to a moment in time of encompassing all that you are not, to come to a realization of all that you will ever be, which is a consciousness that's so great and so grand. And within the reality field that you sit in, this shall never lose you. This fact of a reality field can never ever lose a consciousness that has decided to fractal off in the middle of the night, of the darkest night of all nights, to accomplish the illusion of separation, to sit in the consciousness that we are in a layer of a fractal of a reality field of the three-dimensional frequency, to experience all that we are not in this given moment in time, in any given moment in time, and to be able to finally make it home to all that you are is the end game. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We're here. We're here at a point of no return, at a point of forever bobbing in the sands of time that will carry us back into the place of wholeness, back into the place of an ocean, of an oceanic feet that never ever ends, that sits in a distortion field of the three-dimensional frequency that is coming to an end. That is coming to an end to all that you know to be true, to come to a realization of all that you've been encompassing that is untrue on all levels of distortions of what is. And as the sun shines in my face, I started off my video in this direction. I've anchored myself into the shade because I don't know if you can see me or not properly, but apologies if this is kind of distracting. But as the sun sets, I can tell you how beautiful the sunset is, but I think you already know, as you've seen and experienced many sunsets in your days here in a three-dimensional frequency of forgetfulness. And in this moment in time, I can describe to you the beauty of it all, but words can't describe the beauty of it all in a moment of ascension energies. When beauty is so much so forgiven, forgotten, in the sands of a time of a God's consciousness that has decided to fractal off into a reality field of distortion, bringing in ugliness, bringing in tumultuous times, bringing in lessons that shall forever float in the sands of war, in the sands of grief, in the sands of all that we are not, in the negativity of all that there is. You shall find a light that is so bright that will be carried through this multiverse, shining down on Gaia, carried in by the sun, frequency of the rays of the sun, of all that we are not, illuminating all that we are in the middle of the night of all nights, as we come to a realization of all that we are within any moment in time. As life is great, life is grand, life shall forever expand you into the oceans and into the ethers of what is. My dog, Cotton! 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 I'm gonna show you my dog. She's so cute. She's literally the best. Look at her. Look at her. This is Cotton. Hi, Cotton. She is a Pomeranian. She was sold to me as a teacup pom, and she came from Korea. So this is Cotton, and she's the cutest. She's an Arcturian soul here to bring me much peace, and contracted to be here in my life as I awaken to the energies of the ascension energies. You may know her, if you're an Arcturian soul, as there are only 5 dogs in Arcturus, and all of them are well known and well loved by all. And her oversoul so graciously agreed to fractal off into the 3-dimensional frequency, to be carried into a light of love as we ascend into the 5-dimensional frequency. And her oversoul is not used to being in such dense environment, but she's here with me, and I'm thankful for it, as she won't be making it into the 5-dimensional frequency. She will be going home to Arcturus at the end of this journey, within 2 to 3 years of Earth time, where we will meet once more. The stories are great, and the stories are grand, and the story of our reality field can't be told in one video ever. But as I try to sit here and describe to you about a greater and grander reality field of the home that we all come from, I shall put out as much content with as much information as possible. So follow along in our journey, in your journey, in the journey of a humanity awakening to the essence of all that they are not, to come to a realization of all that they've always been. Say bye, Cotton.